Just because games are super weird doesn't mean that they have to be bad, but it also doesn't mean that they have to be good either. Welcome back, my fellow gamers. It's me, Amanda. What's the weirdest game you have ever played or ever seen played? Number 10, Goat Simulator. What do we find weird? Mainly games that seem to put us in the role of animals, but not Stray though. That game is just straight up heartfelt magic. Goat Simulator, on the other hand, is pure silliness, which is of course a main part of the reason that we love it, and also the reason it is on this list. Goat Simulator is as weird as it sounds. No, never mind. Actually, it's weirder than that. It is a game where you play as a physics-defying, seemingly immortal goat who can jump higher than just about everything and also has a tongue that can shoot across a room like a frog's might. I don't know if a goat has ever charged at you, but I was headbutted by a goat once and it was really awful. Like, not in the head, but a goat ran into me, and it was with their head, and it was not fun. And I managed to mostly get out of the way of that too, so I didn't get like hit straight on, it's kind of on the side. It was awful. One of the weirdest things of all though is that Hideo Kojima was given an honorary credit on Goat Simulator that came with a plea from its creators to pretty please bring back Silent Hills PT. I love this, but it's also so weird. And friends, before we move on to our next spot, if you are loving what we do here at Top 10 Gaming, be sure to go check out one of our newest channels, Most Amazing Top 10 Anime. Hit that subscribe button when you do. Number 9, Hextech Mayhem. Hextech Mayhem is not weird in the traditional meaning of that word. It's not like ridiculous or silly or nonsensical. Well, it's a little nonsensical. It's actually a really amazing game. It's a rhythm-based side-scrolling action adventure where you play as League of Legends champion Ziggs, with the premise being you want to invent a massive bomb, but of course, Heimerdinger feels that it would be a bad idea and pretty irresponsible, so you basically go on an adventure to prove him wrong and, you know, do your own thing. The really weird part about the game is while the main objective is to hit certain actions on beat, there is so much extra stuff that you can do in between that. It blows my mind. It's so weird. There are enemies you can defeat and hidden objectives that require you to also perform actions in between beats to unlock them. So it's a game that just goes like really deep, like weirdly deep when it comes to all the stuff that you can do and accomplish in this game, in between actually doing the main part of the game, which is to hit the beats. Number 8, Flower. I really love this game, but when it was first described to me by my friend Tom, who encouraged me to give it a try, I thought it sounded so weird and so bizarre I couldn't even like really picture it in my mind. I had to play it to understand what was really happening. Flower is a game where you basically play as like a petal on the wind. I'm gonna try to explain it to you, but it also might sounds so weird it might not make sense. Your objective is to open up flowers, collect other petals behind you, and basically kind of like wake up the flowers, the grass, and generally the greenery of like a meadow. It's a really peaceful and beautiful game, one that I highly recommend if you're dealing with any kind of stress or anxiety. We often talk about games on Top 10 Gaming in regards to their ability to entertain us, even scare us, even make us think things, but there are a lot of games out there just meant to soothe us, and gameplay is actually really powerful. It can be a form of therapy at times, and this is one of those games that does that, I think. At least it does for me. It was one of the first games I think I ever played that really I was like, whoa, this is so weird. It's like making me feel calm. That's so cool. I became so enamored on my first playthrough on my friend's PlayStation that I actually bought my own copy of it on Steam to play on my PC, so yeah. Number 7, the Urbz, Sims in the City. I don't know if this one is actually weird. I mean, it's one of my favorite games, but then every time I think of what's really going on, it seems really weird that this game even exists. It even seems even weirder that I can't play it anymore and that I still want to. The Urbz Sims in the City, or Sims Urbz as I often call it, was a game that was released back in 2004. It was a console game exclusively, sadly, and the copy of my game, my Xbox copy, is tragically seen too much heavy use to really work properly anymore without freezing, which is very tragic for me. But Sims Urbz was a really weird thing. It was like Sims, but then instead of building a house and like having your life there and going to work, you lived in the city and you could decorate your apartment and you could travel on the subway to like major destinations and then get jobs at those destinations, leveling up your fame or your star meter, basically to become more renowned and well known. So it was kind of about like going to places, doing random jobs, getting to know people, and becoming famous in the city. The game also partnered with the Black Eyed Peas, who provided much of the game's soundtrack, Simlish versions basically of their biggest hits, which is just so wonderfully weird, and the music group also appeared as NPCs in the game that you could meet and interact with, which also weird, but it's cool. It was cool at the time. Man, remember when the Black Eyed Peas were like the biggest thing? Wow, takes me back. Number 6, Magicka. Magicka is a weird but amazingly fun one. This is a game about typing and combos where you basically like type on your keyboard to cast spells. You can play online with friends or even play locally on the same keyboard, which gets super chaotic, but truly this is a game about chaotic good fun. So that seems to make sense to me that that's kind of part of it. In Magicka, you play as wizards with different spells who must defeat your enemies, but it isn't all doom and gloom. There's also a good amount of levity and humor built into this game as well, so keep that in mind. Also, at one point I thought we were speaking some kind of like foreign language, like I really wanted to learn how to speak it, and I was like, this is probably Swedish because this is developed by a Swedish indie studio, but it turns out this is not one language, but perhaps a mishmash of a few different ones mixed with like maybe a little bit of gibberish, sadly. So it's not something you can like really speak in actuality, although I would love to speak in this language if I could. But maybe I should just learn Swedish. Swedish is a fun language. Number 5, the Stanley Parable. The Stanley Parable isn't just a game, it's kind of like an experience. It has remnants of Portal in it where you play as a man named Stanley, but you also kinda don't, and you're kinda trapped, but you're kinda not, and you gotta wrestle with what is or what isn't happening to you as you make choices or seemingly just follow along. There is a narrator in the game who seemingly dictates what happens to you, but also kinda doesn't, because this is a game where you have choices. Don't you? The Stanley Parable is one of the most hilarious games while also being a complete mind trip, and it really is one that should be played rather than watched. Although after, you might wonder what just happened and feel the need to see what others' experiences were like in comparison to your playthrough. Also, I just really love weird games. This list is making me realize how much I truly love weird games. So even though I'm not sure if this was supposed to be a list about games that are bad because they're weird, instead it became a list really about games that I love because they're weird, for the most part anyways. Number 4, Maneater. Eat the people, save the world. This is a game where you play as, you guessed it, a shark. For all intents and purposes, this game could also likely be called, or at least subtitled, Shark Simulator, except it isn't a simulator in the traditional sense, as it has a pretty powerful narrative that explains the main purpose of the game and that you're working towards. The game in fact is described as being a shark PG with a capital R, get it? Shark PG. And it is an action RPG game where you play as a small shark pup, initially looking to survive and get big and strong so that one day you can return and get your revenge on the fisherman who hurt you. That's right. That fisherman, he deserves it. It's ridiculous but also super fun, and I like this one for the fact that I don't have to feel scared playing underwater in the same way when it comes to like sharks coming to get me, because I am the shark. Although, you know, I guess bigger sharks, they could still come and try and get me. So watch out for that. Hopefully there's no megalodons in this game. I don't think there are any megalodons in Maneater, but hopefully not. Number 3, Untitled Goose Game. Untitled Goose Game, sometimes referred to as Goose Simulator, is a game where you play as a goose. I mean, it is what it sounds like, really. It's a random game. You play as a goose, and you can basically cause a bunch of mischief, messing up people's property, alarming them, and just generally causing trouble for the humans that you happen to come across. Mwahaha! One day geese will rule the world. Personally, if I ran into a goose that's seemingly purposefully troublesome, I would be terrified. I'd also be worried that it was like some sort of genius goose. I'm already afraid of geese though in general, especially Canadian geese, which can get super territorial and especially vicious at times. I don't know if you've ever been chased by a goose, but I have, and it was not fun. I don't know what kind of cruel mistreatment the creators of this game experienced in regards to geese, but I imagine at one point at least one goose severely hurt at least one of them. But the good news is, from that pain, if that is what happened to them, came this game, which is all in good fun. Hopefully they forgave that goose, and the creation of this game was a means of overcoming that past, possibly tragic experience and moving forward. We have to forgive the geese in our lives sometimes. And the goats. Number 2, I Love You, Colonel Sanders. What can I say about I Love You, Colonel Sanders? I mean, having played it in its entirety, it is a super weird game. Even for a dating sim that was created as a promotional game for KFC, with the objective within being to win the heart of founder of KFC, Colonel Sanders. Which already sounds so weird. You're like, how could it get weirder? But trust me, you play it, you'll find out. It gets really, there's a lot of weird stuff. Supernatural, there's boss battles, it's strange. Cooking competitions, Yeah. Number 1, Hatoful Boyfriend. This has to be one of the weirdest games to have ever existed. Like, period. End of statement. Forever. Hatoful Boyfriend is a dating sim with pigeons? And that's not where the weirdness seems to end. Also, the game itself seems to have strange dialogue options and narration, and it just seems, well, strange overall. You play as the sole human attending the prestigious St. Pigeons Institute. Your goal is to attend school and find love and happiness in between classes. So you're a human dating birds. Wow, that's really weird. It's kind of one of those games that you need to play it to believe it. But don't worry, it's still highly rated and available for you on Steam if you feel compelled to give this game a try. Don't worry, they've got you. You can date pigeons. You can do anything in this world. It's crazy. Video games. At the end of the day, what is better than playing weird games? Now that we've discussed, hopefully you found a few new ones to check out after you finish this video as you keep on gaming on. Pew pew!